21st century began. Human evolution was at a turning point. Natural selection, the process by which the strongest, the smartest, the fastest reproduced in greater numbers than the rest, a process which had once favored the noblest traits of man, now began to favor different traits. Most science fiction of the day predicted a future that was more civilized and more intelligent. But as time went on, things seemed to be heading in the opposite direction, a dumbing down. How did this happen? Evolution does not necessarily reward intelligence. With no natural predators to thin the herd, it began to simply reward those who reproduced the most and left the intelligent to become an endangered species.
Having kids is such an important decision.
We're just waiting for the right time. It's not something you want to rush into, obviously.
No way.
Oh, shit, I'm pregnant again!
Shit! I got too many damn kids. Thought you was on the pill or some shit.
Hell no!
Must have been thinking of Brittany.
Brittany? No, you didn't! What? There's no way we could have a child now. Not with the market the way it is, no.
God, no. That just wouldn't make any sense.
Come on over here, bitch! He don't care about you!
Yeah, well, there must be something he likes over here.
You mean nothing to me, baby? Oh, shit. It wasn't me! It wasn't me!
Well, we finally decided to have children, and I'm not pointing fingers, but it's not going well.
And this is helping.
I'm just saying that before I have in vitro, maybe you should be willing to...
It's always me, right?
Well, it's not my sperm count.
Yeah! Yeah! I'm gonna fuck all y'all! That's my boy!
Cleavon is lucky to be alive. He attempted to jump a jet ski from a lake into a swimming pool and impaled his crotch on an iron gate. But thanks to recent advances in stem cell research and the fine work of Doctors Krinsky and Altschuler, Cleavon should regain full reproductive function.
Get your hands off my junk!
Unfortunately, Trevor passed away from a heart attack while masturbating to produce sperm for artificial insemination. But I have some eggs frozen, so just as soon as the right guy comes along,
And so it went for many seem to notice. But in the year 2005, in a military base just outside of Washington, D.C., a simple Army librarian was unknowingly about to change the entire course of human history.
Hey, Bowers. This is Peterson, your new replacement.
My what? I'm getting replaced?
Yeah, they didn't tell you?
No.
Some new assignment. They're being all weird and hush-hush about it.
I don't want a new assignment. I tell Sergeant Metzler that every time. I'm good at this.
Good at what? Sitting on ass? No one ever comes in here.
Yeah, I know. It's perfect for me. No one bothers me. I can't screw up. If I can just stay in here another 8 years, I get my pension. I'm all set. Can you just get me out of this?
No way. Not this time. It's coming from high up.
I don't understand. Why me? Every time Metzler says lead, follow, or get out of the way, I get out of the way.
Yeah, when he says that, you're not supposed to choose get out of the way. It's supposed to embarrass you into leading or at least following.
That doesn't embarrass me.
Look, Joe, you don't have a choice. You're just gonna have to follow. Like, follow me upstairs like now.
Right now? Shouldn't I train this guy?
I think he can figure out how to sit on his ass and watch TV all day. Let's go.
Gentlemen, meet Joe Bowers, our first subject for the human hibernation experiment. Now, as you know, throughout the years, many of our best pilots, soldiers, and military leaders often go their entire careers without ever seeing battle. With the Human Hibernation Project, we will be able to save our best men, frozen in their prime, for use when they are needed most. Joe here is not one of our best men. Mr. Bowers was chosen primarily for how remarkably average he is. Extremely average in every category. Remarkable, truly. The most average person in our entire armed forces. Additionally, he has no family, is unmarried, is an only child, and both parents are deceased, making him an ideal candidate with no one to ask any nosy questions should something go wrong with the experiment. We had a little less luck in finding a female researcher's dream within our ranks, and were forced to look into the private sector. This is Rita. Like Joe, she has no immediate family. Rita agreed to participate in this experiment in exchange for dropping of certain criminal charges and a small fee. We did, however, have to come to an arrangement with her pimp, a gentleman who goes by the name Upgrade, which he spells thusly. With 2 Ds, as he says, for a double dose of this pimping. Upgrade agreed to loan us Rita for exactly 1 year and keep quiet on the matter in exchange for certain leeways with the local authorities in running his pimp game. First, however, there was the difficult challenge of gaining his trust.
Collins, can we skip to the technicals, please?
Sure. Let me just finish here. You see, a pimp's love is very different from that of a square.
Collins!
Fine. We'll move on. It is a fascinating world, though.
Jesus, Collins?
Yeah, that's... Anyway, the experiment in which these 2 subjects are to be placed into a dry freeze for exactly 1 year is set to begin tomorrow. As you know, this is highly classified. However, if successful, we believe humans can be stored indefinitely.
So this is kind of crazy, huh? What unit are you with?
Oh, I ain't in a service.
Oh, private sector. Okay. So, what do you do?
Little of this, little of that.
Wow, that's great. You know, I really envy people that can make a living that way, you know, doing a little of this and a little of that. I had a neighbor, Glenn, who used to make chainsaw sculptures, and then he'd sell them at the flea market. Yeah. So, you an artist or something?
Yeah.
You do paintings or...
Yeah, paintings.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
What do you paint mostly?
I don't know, just people and fruit and shit.
Well, must be great to be able to make a living doing something you love.
Yeah, well, it's not all it's cracked up to be.
Okay, who wants to go first?
Me. Oh, hell no.
Oh, hey, no, you probably don't want to do that with the IVs attached and all. Oh, what's the matter?
Man, Upgrade didn't tell me they'd be putting me no damn coffin with tubes and shit.
No, don't worry about it. It'll be safe, trust me. Who's Upgrade?
He's my boyfriend. Man, how do you know this shit's safe?
These guys, they know what they're doing. Don't worry. They've tested it on dogs and everything. What happens is the drugs will kick in, drift off to sleep. We wake up in a year, you'll be painting again. It'll be fine.
All right.
Upgrade. That's an interesting name. Is he Dutch? See, because I knew this Dutch exchange student. His name was Untgrad.
Okay, my niggas, we're almost set here. Just go ahead and lie down, relax. See you in a year.
The Human Hibernation Project was one of the Army's most ambitious experiments, and one of its most secretive. But it was not immune from human error. Soon after Cullen's arrest and the massive scandal that followed, the base was closed. It hadn't even been a year, and the entire project was simply forgotten. Things looked bleak for Joe, but they were even worse for mankind. As Joe and Rita lay dormant, the years passed, and mankind became stupider at a frightening rate. Some had high hopes that genetic engineering would correct this trend in evolution. But sadly, the greatest minds and resources were focused on conquering hair loss and prolonging erections. Meanwhile, the population exploded and intelligence continued to decline until humanity was incapable of solving even its most basic problems, like garbage, which had been stacked for centuries with no plan whatsoever, leading to the Great Garbage Avalanche of 2505, which would set in motion the events that would change the world forever.
An all-new Alma balls.
You're gonna get hit in the balls. Huh? Hold on.
Where's Officer Collins?
Shut up!
Are we on base?
I'll base your ass on my fist. Face, ass. Shut up.
I'm sorry, it's just Where am I?
Shut up! I told you already! Yeah! Well, shut up!
Unaware of what year it was, Joe wandered the streets desperate for help. But the English language had deteriorated into a hybrid of hillbilly, valley girl, inner city slang, and various grunts. Joe was able to understand them, but when he spoke in an ordinary voice, he sounded pompous and faggy to them.
Hi, I was in an army experiment, and I'm not feeling so well. I think it might have been the drugs they had me on. I've been hallucinating. My head is just killing me. My joints are all achy, and Is this a hospital, or... I don't even know where I am.
Please proceed to the diagnostic area on the right, and have a healthy day.
Oh. Thanks.
Thank you.
Excuse me. I think this might be Gatorade or something. I was just looking for some regular water.
Water?
Yeah.
You mean like in the toilet? What for?
No, just to drink.
You got hepatitis. Oh, is someone not feeling well? Your illness is very important to us.
Next.
Welcome to the Healthmaster Inferno, powered by Cure Me technology.
This goes in your mouth. This one goes in your ear. And this one goes in your butt.
Hurry up, asshole! Come on!
Shit, hang on a second. This one.
Hurry up!
This one goes in your mouth.
Come on!
Thank you for waiting. Dr. Lexus will be with you shortly.
It's a weird misprint.
Hey! Azang, essay.
Yeah, right. Well, not so good. You know, I don't really know what's going on, but I'm seeing things. I think it might be because of these drugs the Army put me on. But if you could, just get me well enough to get back to base.
Right. Kick ass. Well, don't want to sound like a dick or nothing, but it says on your chart that you're fucked up. You talk like a fag, and your shit's all retarded. What I do is just like you know, you know what I mean? Like,
No, I'm serious here.
Don't worry, Scro. Now there are plenty of tards out there living really kick-ass lives. My first wife was tarded. She's a pilot now.
I need for you to be serious for a second here, okay? I need help.
There's that fag talk we talked about. Right, so that'll be this many dollars. And if you could just go ahead and, like, put your tattoo in that shit.
That's weird. This thing has the same misprint as that magazine. What are the odds?
Where's your tattoo? Tattoo? Why don't you have this?
tattoo. Why come you don't have a tattoo?
Oh my God.
You're not unscannable, are you?
Oh my God!
You're unscannable.
Unscannable! No, you don't understand. You gotta let me talk to someone in the army. A second. They're all dead. Everybody I know is dead. Oh my God! Oh! Come down! How this happen?
Joe had awakened to a world in crisis. The economy was in a state of deep neglect. A great dust bowl had ravaged food supplies, and the #1 movie in the country was called Ass. And that's all it was for 90 minutes. It won 8 Oscars that year, including Best Screenplay.
Enjoy your extra big-ass fries.
You didn't give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another extra big-ass fries?
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please come back when you can afford to make a purchase.
No.
I'm sorry you're having
Come
trouble.
on. My
I'm
kids
sorry
are
you're having
starving.
This should help you calm down. Please come back when you can afford to make a purchase. Your kids are starving. Carl's Jr. believes no child should go hungry. You are an unfit mother. Your children will be placed in the custody of Carl's Jr. Carl's Jr. Fuck you. I'm eating. Welcome to Carl's Jr. Would you like to try our extra big-ass taco? Now with more molecules.
Hey! Is this particular individual the unfit mother?
Me? No.
Okay. This particular individual is unscannable.
Listen, I can explain, okay? I was in an army experiment. Wait a second. There's the other pod from the army experiment. There was a girl. She was from the same experiment. Would you just
that's
stop
enough
so
of
that I
your
can
bullshit,
explain? You gotta let me
Sarge.
talk. Ow!
Joe was arrested for not paying his hospital bill and not having his UPC tattoo. He would soon discover that in the future, Justice was not only blind, but had become rather retarded as well.
Now, I'm fixing to commensurate this trial here. We gonna see if we can come up with a verdict up in here. Now, since y'all say you ain't got no money, we have proprietarily obtained for you one of them court-appointed lawyers. So put your hands together and give it up for Rico Pendejo.
You're my lawyer?
Says here you, robbed a hospital? Why'd you do that?
Yeah, I'm not guilty.
That's not what the other lawyer said.
I mean, listen, you gotta get me on the stand, okay? I can explain everything. We can take him to your house. We'll show him the pod that I came here.
Shut up! Now, prosecute him. Why you think you done it?
Okay, #1, Your Honor. Just look at him.
He talks like a fag, too.
And B, we've got all this, like, evidence of how, like, this guy didn't even pay at the hospital. And I heard that he doesn't even have his tattoo. I know. And I'm all, you gotta be shitting me. But check this out, man. Judge should be like, guilty. Peace.
Objection!
What are you objectifying on?
Come on, just get me on the stand now.
Okay. Your Honor, I object that this guy also broke my apartment to shit. Yeah. What? And you know what else? I object that he's not gonna have any money to pay me after he pays back all the money he stole from the hospital.
Don't say I stole. You're my lawyer.
And I object. I object! that he interrupted me while I was watching Oh My Ball! That is not okay! I rest my case!
Your Honor, I'm pretty sure we have a mistrial here, sir.
I'm gonna mistrial my foot up your ass, you don't shut up.
Please listen.
Please listen.
I didn't steal anything. I was part of an army experiment.
Joe stated his case logically and passionately, but his perceived effeminate voice only drew big gales of stupid laughter.
You did!
Without adequate legal representation, Joe was given a stiff sentence. Meanwhile, Rita had awakened to find that the world's oldest profession was a lot easier when the world is populated by morons.
Welcome to AOL Time Warner Taco Bell U.S. Government Long Distance. Please say the name of the person you wish to call.
Upgrade.
There are 9,726 listings for upgrade. Please deposit $2,000 to begin connection.
Man, what?
Yeah, baby.
Hey, look, can you wait a second, please?
Yeah, baby. I can wait so good.
Really? Think maybe you could wait a day?
Baby, I can wait 2 days.
Huh. That's good. 'Cause I charge by the hour.
Oh, yeah? Well, you're gonna be glad you waited, baby.
Thank you very much, young man. What the fuck? God damn, shit's changed in a year.
What are we doing here?
Okay, sir, we're engaged in procuring your tattoo.
Welcome to the Identity Processing Program of America. Please insert your forearm into the forearm receptacle. Thank you. Please speak your name as it appears on your current federal identity card. Document number G24L8.
Well, I'm not sure if...
You have entered the name Not Sure. Is this correct? Not sure.
No, it's not correct.
Thank you. Not is correct. Is sure correct?
No, it's not. My name is
Already
Joe...
confirmed. Your first name is not. Please confirm your last name. Sure.
My last name is not sure. Oh,
Thank you.
No, what I mean is
sure.
that my name is
Confirmation
Joe...
is complete. Please wait while I tattoo your new identity on your arm.
Wait a second. Can we start over? Can I cancel this? Can we cancel this and just go back to the beginning? They're gonna Ow! Could I speak to your supervisor?
Please hold still for your photograph.
That's fucking great.
Okay, sir, now we will begin to proceed to obtain your IQ and aptitude tests.
What for?
Okay, sir, this is to figure out what your aptitude's good at and get you a jail job while you're being a particular individual in jail.
If you have one bucket that holds 2 gallons and another bucket that holds 5 gallons, how many buckets do you have?
2?
Thank you.
Lord, I wonder what's got the matter. I'm trying over time. It seems like the hours, everything done changed, but I hold in my hand. Lord, I'm trying to make you understand. Lord, you know what? Everybody, they tell me somebody done hoodoo the hoodoo man. Now you know I buzzed your bell this morning, baby, had your elevator running slow. I buzzed your bell, it's gonna take me up on a 3rd floor, but I hold in my hand. Lord, I'm trying to make you understand. Lord, you know what? They tell the baby that somebody done hoodoo the hoodoo man. Look at here, baby.
Desperate and scared, Joe used his superior intelligence to come up with the best escape plan he could think of.
Hi, excuse me. I'm actually supposed to be getting out of prison today, sir.
You're in the wrong line, dumbass. Over there.
I'm sorry, I'm in a
big dumbass.
Sorry. Hey, let this dumbass through.
Two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see you in here, so you're gonna have to, stay in prison.
Could you check again? Because I was definitely in prison, okay? I got sat on my face and everything. Maybe check those files back there?
Masturbation Network, keeping America baiting for 300 years. And now, Sweet Bang Tube.
Oh, yeah, give me some. Cut me a piece. Oh, that's... Go away, baiting! Damn it. All right. Hey, get out of here. Hey, get out of here!
No, wait, listen. You let me, an innocent man, get thrown in jail.
So? Shut up. You broke my house.
Hey, I could have you disbarred for what you did to me. Then maybe you'd go to jail for not having any money.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really. Now look, okay, here's the deal. I've been thinking. It's been 500 years. Someone has to have invented a way to travel back in time by now. You know, I think they were pretty close, even in my day. You know, with Einstein and guys like that. You know, scientists, you know? A time machine for time travel. Do they have one?
What?
Jesus. I knew that was too much to hope for.
No, they got a time machine.
They do?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Can it get me back to 2005?
Oh, yeah, but it's, like, really expensive. And it breaks all the time because some smart guy made it a long time ago.
I don't care. Just get me there, okay? Well, please.
Listen, I sympathize with you, but didn't you go to jail for not having enough money?
Okay, how about this? You get me to the time machine, and when I get back, I open a savings account in your name. That way, 500 years later, it'll be worth billions. Billions! Because of the interest, it'll be worth billions of dollars.
Oh, I like money.
Yeah.
How many billions?
Like 10.
Yeah, suck one. Time machine costs like 20.
Yeah, okay. 30, Frito. $30 billion.
30 billion, so if you gave me 30 billion and the time machine is 20, what's the minus of 30 and 20?
It's 80, Frito. It's $80 billion. That's a mighty big minus, isn't it?
Yeah, I like money, though.
Police, open the door! We're looking for an escaped individual. This particular individual's name is not sure.
He's somewhere else.
Somewhere else.
Oh, yeah, there's ProWare on the top and Sword in the middle.
A coke machine in the vicinity caught his tattoo. Seemed to be heading for this particular domicile. Okay, sir, we're coming in.
No, you can't come in.
Can't too.
All right, let's go get my billions.
Oh, okay, one more thing. We gotta go find this Rita first, okay?
Is she banging?
Yeah, sure she is.
That wasn't really part of the deal.
Okay, I'll throw in another couple billion, all right?
I like money.
Okay, our pod's up here on the right. She shouldn't be too far away, I hope.
Girl. Oh, yeah? So when we gonna do it? Because you've been charging me by the hour, and it's been like 3 days.
Oh, yeah, soon, baby, soon. Hey, you know what? Why don't you come back tomorrow?
Yeah, baby, yeah. When I finally utilize you, you gonna be paying me.
That's right. Whatever you say, sir. Hey, you still on the clock?
Yeah, girl.
Thank you.
Rita, it's
me, Joe, from the experiment. Get in the car, come on.
Oh, yeah. Hey, what the hell, man?
Just get in the car, I'll explain everything.
Where are we going?
Just get in the car.
What happened to those army guys? Wait a minute, you got cops after you?
Yeah.
And you made me get in the car? I got 2 strikes, asshole.
Frito, take it right here. Right. Into that dust storm, Frito. They must have just forgotten about us.
It's been 500 years? Oh, hell no. Upgrade is gonna kill me. He gets mad when I'm a day late with his money.
So you owe your boyfriend money?
Well, yeah, he's sort of my manager, too. You know, he helps me sell the paintings and shit.
Look, Rita, you gotta understand that Upgrade's been dead for a long time now.
Yeah, man, but you said there was a time machine, right?
Yeah, there's a time machine now that can take us back to the past, but there was no time machine back then, so...
Upgrade don't care where the time machine is, now, then, last week. He will find a way to come get his money.
Well, all I'm saying is you don't have to worry about it.
You know what? The last time you told me not to worry was 500 goddamn years ago when you were trying to tell me to get in some sort of tricked-out army coffin.
Look, Rita, I don't know how this happened, okay? But I'm doing everything I can to get us back there, okay? I promise you.
You are harboring a fugitive by the name of Not Sure. Please pull over and wait for the police to incarcerate your passenger.
Oh, hell no. You know what? You better let me out of here.
Look,
right
Rita,
now.
if you don't have one of these, they're gonna throw you in jail. And trust me, you don't want to get thrown in the jails I got around here. I've been in them. They're bad. You're better off being with us, as bad as that sounds. Wait, what are you doing? Why are we slowing down?
Turned off my battery.
Look, how far is it? Can we just take a cab or something? Oh, shit. Your car.
Oh, hell yeah! Keep on riding!
Come on, let's get out of here.
Hey, how much farther is it?
It's like far.
Man, I could really go for a Starbucks, you know?
Yeah, well, I really don't think we have time for a hand job, Joe. Better than Superman.
Man, he don't seem too bright. You sure he knows where he's going?
I sure hope so. Is our only chance.
And bucket is flexible.
How'd you hook up with this guy anyway?
He's my lawyer. And he's not a very good one either. He's a goddamn idiot.
There's a shuttle down in the Costco. Drop us right by the time machine.
Oh, look, one more thing. He thinks he's gonna get billions of dollars if he takes us there. So if he mentions anything about a savings account, just play along, okay?
Yeah, well, what if this time machine don't work?
Then I'll spend the rest of my life trying to fix it.
Welcome to Costco. I love you. Welcome to Costco. I love you. Welcome to Costco. I love you. Welcome to Costco.
Shuttle's down there in electronics, about an hour from here.
We've been walking forever. You sure you know where you're going?
Yeah, I know this place is pretty good. I went to law school here.
In Costco?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it myself. Luckily, my dad was an alumnus and pulled some strings. Hey, come on, Joe. I already told you, we'd all like a hand job, but we don't have time for it. Shuttle comes every few minutes. shouldn't be long.
Do I got time to use the bathroom?
The toilet.
Be right back.
Yeah, back that thing up. Hey, you mind if I pound on that, Joe?
What?
I like having sex with chicks.
Yeah. I think everybody does, Frito.
Not like I do. Like when you get it like this sideways, then you just like back it.
That's real good.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, stop, you're gonna get us caught.
Warning, warning. Costco has detected a dangerous fugitive in aisle 16,702.
Hey, what about Rita? We can't just leave her here.
I don't care.
Shit. Wait a second, what are we gonna do? Wait, okay, I know. Here's what we do. We just go to the time machine, then when I get back to the past, I tell her not to do the experiment, then she won't even be here. That'll work, right? No, wait a second. She already is here, so that must mean I didn't go back in time, right? No, but hold on. It just means I haven't done it yet. Okay, so I go back and I tell her not to do the experiment, then I won't have to do it either because she won't be here, then I won't have to come back and save her, right? But then, wait, why am I still here? God damn, how does the time travel work?
Please stand.
Free! Hands up! Get your hands up! Free!
Look, if you guys are taking me back to that jail, just go ahead and shoot me, because there's no way that... Ow! Fuck! Ow! Ow! Oh! Ow!
What?
Oh, ow! 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 Oh, ow!
What?
Ow! Ow! God! Hey, stop! What is this?
Okay, sir. This is the White House.
What are we doing at the White House?
What?
Ow! Ow!
It turned out the results of Joe's IQ test had caught the attention of the highest levels of government.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm the smartest guy in the world? Says who?
The IQ test you took in prison. You got the highest score in history. Brought to you by Carl's Jr.
Yeah, dumbass. You're even smarter than President Camacho. That's how come he's making you Secretary of Interior.
Okay, so who are you?
I'm the Secretary of Energy.
I won a contest, got to be a cabinet member. I'm the Secretary of State. Brought to you by Carl's Jr.
Why do you keep saying that?
Because they pay me every time I do. It's a really good way to make money. You're so smart, why don't you know that? The Secretary of Defense. And fun bags over there is the Attorney General.
And that's Secretary of Education.
It's kind of stupid. Police President Camacho's stepbrother still does a pretty good job, eh?
You know, I think there's been some kind of mistake, because the test I took was real easy. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. Okay? Okay, even if that were true, I can't be the Secretary of the Interior. I don't even know what it is.
Better find out.
Sit down. President Camacho.
Hey, I gotta take care of some business, baby, so I need y'all to wait outside.
Dwayne Elizondo Camacho, 5-time Ultimate SmackDown champion, porn superstar, and President of the United States, had called a special summit with the smartest man in the world.
So you smart, huh?
No.
I thought your head would be bigger. God damn. Could look like a peanut. Let's get you sworn in.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of America! President Camacho!
Shut up! Sit your monkey ass down. Chill out. Shit. I know shit's bad right now with all that starving bullshit and the dust storms and we running out of French fries and burrito coverings.
Yeah.
But I got a solution.
That's what you said last time, dipshit. I got a solution. You're a dick.
South Carolina, what's up?
That's what I thought. Now, I understand everyone's shit's emotional right now, but listen up. I got a three-point plan to fix everything. Number one, we got this guy not sure. Number two, he's got a higher IQ than any man alive. And number three, he's gonna fix everything. I give you my word as president. He'll fix the problems with all the dead crops. He's gonna make them grow again. And that ain't all. I give you my word. He's gonna fix the dust storms too. And I give you my word. He's gonna fix the economy. He's so smart. He's gonna do it all in 1 week.
President Camacho stood before the world and promised everyone that Joe would solve all their problems. He would not only end the Dust Bowl and heal the economy, but he would cure acne and car sickness as well. And if he didn't, President Camacho made another promise. He would kick Joe's smart balls all the way up to the roof of his smart mouth, and then he would throw his brainy ass back in jail.
I should be honest with you, Mr. President. I don't know how to be Secretary of anything. I mean, I've never even voted, actually. I don't know what the Secretary of the Interior even is.
Come on, Scro. Don't be a pussy. It beats jail, don't it? Besides, you do a kick-ass job, you get a full presidential pardon. No jail time.
Yeah?
Fuck yeah. Now give me a beer. And get you one, too. Shit! Hold on, Vato!
Do something smart.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, we found that lawyer you wanted.
Oh, okay, great, thanks. Right now I'm going to, confer with my counsel, you understand? So I'll be right back. Gotta go, just work on some crop stuff, get that taken care of. Hopefully get it worked out by the time we get back here.
Sounds pretty smart.
Right here, okay? Stay there.
Dude, this is trepidatious. Got me a room at the White House. Everyone gets laid at the White House. Everyone.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I'm real glad you're happy to be here, Frito, but I brought you here to help me, okay? I don't know the first thing about growing crops, much less the goddamn economy. Economy.
Let's see. Growing crops.
No, I just need you to tell me how to get to the time machine.
Oh, that's easy. Well, you go down by the museum and stuff. It's like by the museum. Sort of, but actually not really. More like on the street. You go, wait, let me start over. Okay, you know where the time machine is?
Hey, just draw me a map, okay? You still want the money?
Oh, if I had some money and a room at the White House, I would be like, it's mine.
Listen,
all
cut it out.
night.
Listen, I told these people that you were smart, okay? So act smart.
Smart like you? Oh, I gotta go to the time machine. I wanna go home.
I don't talk like that.
I don't talk like that.
Shit, I thought there was two of you.
See?
Doesn't look that big, is it?
Okay, let's go take a look at those crops, especially the ones, out around the museum area. All right? Hey, come on. Now, you either lead, follow, or get out of the way, all right?
Whoa. Did you just make that up?
Yes, I did. Now, look, I also need help finding this girl named Rita, like, immediately, and Frida will give you a hand with it.
Why?
Well, because, you know, she'd be an essential, integral asset, you know, for our team, for us to, you know, utilize. Okay, but you're gonna bring her here, right?
Oh, yeah. But first...
Okay. Yeah, that sucks pretty bad. Frida, why don't you come over here and take a look at this? Come on, hustle over here, buddy. I want to figure this out. See, just not a lot of mush. Have you got the map? Oh, yeah. Discreetly. She's right there. Nice.
Yo, Mr. Secretary, not sure. They found that whore you wanted.
Hey, that may be how you refer to women in the future, but come on.
No, sir. Turns out she charged some guy a lot of money and didn't put out. Don't worry, though. We'll get her out on a work-release whoring license as long as you're doing her.
Hands off me. You think I'm gonna do? Run through the field? The fuck are y'all staring at? Joe?
That's not sure, ma'am. Secretary, not sure.
Secretary? Secretary of what?
Say, would you guys mind if we had a little moment together? Alone? You know, in the bushes?
Hey, you want us to come along and make sure she puts out?
No thanks, I can handle it. Yeah.
I thought you was in jail. How'd you get to be the Secretary of Interior?
Just keep walking, I'll explain everything. Get ready to run.
What?
Oh, God damn it. Way to go, Frito.
Oh.
You know what? Just make a run for it anyways. We'll ask for directions on the way.
No way, man. I spent the last 2 days looking for it. It ain't easy to find.
Damn it, I can't go back to jail, and I sure as hell can't solve all these problems.
Well, all I know is I better find Upgrade before he finds me.
Listen to me. Upgrade cannot find you, okay? It's impossible.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And even if Upgrade could somehow magically travel through time, we got Secret Service guys with huge guns protecting us, okay? So don't worry, you're safe. And you know what? It's none of my business, but when we get back, you and Upgrade should seriously think about couples counseling, okay? And you should also think about maybe finding an art manager who's not also your boyfriend.
Hey! She not putting out?
No, she is. We already did it.
Yeah. He was great.
Okay. Hey, a couple of us guys were wondering, we go family style on her.
Yeah, probably not right now. We should focus on the crops, so let's get back to work. Maybe later. What the hell is this? Tastes like Gatorade.
Is that Brondo stuff?
They're watering crops with a sports drink?
Rondo the Thirst Mutilator had come to replace water virtually everywhere. Water, the basic component of all life, had been deemed a threat to Brondo's profit margin. The solution came during the budget crisis of 2330, when the Brondo Corporation simply bought the FDA and the FCC, enabling them to say, do, and sell anything they wanted. Joe didn't know any of this, but he did see a problem that he might actually be able to solve. With his options running out, Joe took a bold step. He would not get out of the way. This time, he would lead.
For the last time, I'm pretty sure what's killing the crops is this Brondo stuff.
The Brondo's got what plants crave. It's got electrolytes.
So wait a minute. What you're saying is that you want us to put water on the crops.
Yes.
Water. Like out the toilet?
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be out of the toilet, but yeah, that's the idea.
But Brondo's got what plants crave.
It's got electrolytes.
Okay, look. The plants aren't growing, so I'm pretty sure that the Brondo's not working. Now, I'm no botanist, but I do know that if you put water on plants, they grow.
Well, I've never seen no plants grow out of no toilet.
Hey, that's good. You sure you ain't the smartest guy in the world?
Yeah.
Okay, look, you want to solve this problem. I want to get my pardon, so why don't we just try it, okay? And not worry about what plants crave.
Brondo's got what plants crave.
Yeah, it's got electrolytes.
What are electrolytes? Do you even know?
It's what they use to make Brondo.
Yeah, but why do they use them to make Brondo?
Because Brondo's got electrolytes.
After several hours, Joe finally gave up on logic and reason and simply told the cabinet that he could talk to plants and that they wanted water. He made believers out of everyone. Joe didn't know it, but the beloved electrolytes were salts that had been building up in the topsoil over the decades, killing plants and leading to the Dust Bowl. As Secretary of the Interior, Joe ordered all crops to be switched to water, promising that over time, plants would grow and the Dust Bowl would end. He was on the fast track to a full presidential pardon, or so it seemed.
I hope something grows fast.
Yeah, so we can haul our ass back home. Man, you really think those people would have starved to death?
I don't know. I mean, how did the world ever get like this? You know things are bad when they're coming to me for answers. It's a weird feeling being smarter than everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Not used to it.
Yeah, me neither. You think Einstein walked around thinking everyone was a bunch of dumb shits?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
Now you know why he built that bomb.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, listen. Those cops...
Oh, hey, I'm sorry about that.
No. They said that you got me a pardon. You know, if you hadn't done that, I'd still be in jail right now, so... I guess I owe you one. You know, you don't have to sleep on the floor if you don't want to.
No, I'm all right, yeah. Besides, you know, I don't think Upgrade would be too happy about that. You in bed with a stranger? I know.
Oh, shit, it's Upgrade.
Oh, shit. It's not Upgrade.
Given enough time, Joe's plan might have worked. But when the Brondo stock suddenly dropped to zero, leaving half the population unemployed, dumb, angry mobs took to the streets, rioting and looting, and screaming for Joe's head. An emergency cabinet meeting was called with the CEO of the Brondo Corporation.
How come nobody's buying Brondo the Thirst Mutilator?
Ah, shit. Half the country works for Brondo.
Not anymore! The stock has dropped to zero, and the computer did that auto layoff thing to everybody. We're all unemployed!
I think that makes it how many suck?
Why is this happening?
I think it's because we switched to water, but...
I mean, this is all your fault?
What?
Yeah, this is your fault. This shit started happening when we switched to water.
He tried taking water from toilets, but its secretary not sure who finds himself in the toilet now. And as history pulls down its pants and prepares to lower its ass on Not Shore's head, it will be Daddy Justice who will be crapping on him this time.
We now go live to Violence Channel correspondent for Micah Davis at the Extreme Court with highlights on today's trial.
Thank you, Velveeta. Well, it started off boring and slow, with Not Sure trying to bullshit everyone with a bunch of smart talk. Blah, blah, blah. You gotta believe me. That part of the trial sucked. But then the Chief J just went off. He said, man, whatever. The guy's guilty as shit. We all know that. And he sentences us to 1 night of rehabilitation.
Hey, rehabilitation? 1 night? Doesn't sound so bad.
Not so bad, huh? Here's some highlights from last week's rehabilitation. And who could forget that wonderful finish by rehab officer Tylenol Jones? And tomorrow night looks even more better. Word is that Beef Supreme himself might come out of retirement.
Wow. Thank you, Formica.
So you think you can escape again? Like you did last time?
No, they pretty much fixed that.
How?
They chained me to a big rock.
Oh.
Yeah. Look, Rita, get Frito. Get him to take you back to the time machine without me. Don't wait.
No. You could have split on me before, but you didn't.
Look, you want to pay me back? Just go back, okay? Tell people to read books. Tell people to stay in school. You know, tell people to just use their brains or something. You know, I think maybe the world got like this because of people like me. I never did anything with my life. At least you were an artist, you know? So just go back and Rita, whatever you do, keep painting, okay?
Good luck, Joe.
Okay, that's 5 down and 1 more to go. Are you ready for a monster truck duel to the death? Let's give it up for the guitar army. Okay, we're gonna do this shit, but first, to lead us in the natural anthem, the star of All My Balls, Hormel Chavez!
Thank you, thank you.
That's just how that shit went on TV!
This execution is brought to you by Brando the First Millionaire. After you kill somebody,
Yeah.
So, my car's out front whenever you want me to take you to that time machine.
Thanks, Frito.
Yeah. That's real bummer about Joe, huh? Yeah. Oh, can you turn this up? I love rehabilitation.
Okay, let's meet our rehabilitation officers for tonight. With a combined record of 62 kills. Please welcome Billy Wawamba and the Dildozer! And his brother, Bobby Wawamba, and the Ass Blaster!
I get a truck too, right?
Yeah. Here it comes. Get in.
Yeah, you still got the chain attached.
Door won't shut.
About the chain. We break it off with a stick. Yeah, I got an idea. Put it in the trunk.
Yeah, that'll work.
Who's smart now?
Let's bring out our criminal. He tried to ruin the country by pouring toilet water on crops. He cost millions of people their jobs. Let's get ready to rehabilitate Not Sure.
Never would have guessed this is how I was gonna die.
Are you ready for some car-on-car action?
Yes.
I can't watch this.
This is gonna be so sad. I hope I don't cry.
Shit! Frito, come here, look! He was right, the water, it worked! Frito, can you get me over there?
Yes.
Oh, you fucking moron, to the rehabilitation place!
This way.
Yeah. Come on, Frito, hurry!
Now, the dude that everybody came here to see, the only undefeated officer ever in history, coming out of retirement just to pound not sure's ass, driving the biggest, hugest correctional vehicle ever built in history, bigger than the Dildozer, bigger than the ass blaster, bigger and huger than everything ever before in history, the brand new ass dozer. Give it up for Speed Supreme! Shit, I think it was too big, huh? We seem to be experimenting some technological differences. So, shit.
Frito, look! It's working everywhere!
Shit. That's a big pile of rocks. Kind of reminds me of one time I was...
Hey!
Oh, okay.
Shit, stop.
We're gonna start without being supreme. Let the rehabilitation begin!
Come on, Frito, hurry!
Jesus, that was crazy.
Mr. President, I need to talk to you! You gotta stop this thing! He was spraying him out of water! We passed some crops on the way here! They're growing!
I didn't see no crops.
They're gonna do the molasses crunch on him! This is an illegal move, okay? Don't tell nobody.
Oh!
So the winner is, gotta be shit.
Did he win?
Uh-oh. Look.
Holy shit, it's Big Supreme!
Hey, Frito! Frito, you remember those crops we saw up the road right by the Starbucks? Hey, you wanna make some money?
I like money.
Hey, the mainspring is malfunctioning, and they're gonna need you outside immediately. There's a bunch of whores in the hallway. Come on, Frito, hurry.
Can't believe you like money, too. We should hang out.
Totally. truck, stupid!
Look.
Shit. That's a good deal.
Extra foam.
I got a bunch of money, too. Forgot what it was for.
You think it was for lattes?
Yeah, probably.
So you like money and sex? You're tripping me out.
What the fuck?
Guilty of here. I never said that I was the smartest person on earth. You people did. I didn't know that you'd lose your jobs and all your money, and I'm very sorry that that happened. But I'm telling you, if you put water on the crops, it might actually... No, it will work. I promise you. You have to believe me. I just wanted to help you, that's all. So, you can try and shoot me, you can try and run me over, whatever. But I just want you to ask yourselves one question first. Do you really want to live in a world where you try to blow up the one person that's trying to help you? Hold on, just hold on.
Was I wearing pants when we went in there?
Shit. What do I look like, a pants goblin?
Wait, this reminds me of something. Rehabilitation?
Why you keep trying to read that word? You a fag?
Fag your face!
Come on, Fredo.
Yeah, I don't think so. Oh, yeah.
This guy just got his ass apart.
Rita, I mean, I don't know what to say. You know, you saved my life. No one's ever done anything like that for me.
Yeah, well, you know, you were looking out for the whole world, so, you know, I thought someone should look out for you, too.
Thanks. I can't believe I'm even saying this, but even though these people tried to kill me, you know, I think I'm actually gonna kind of miss them.
Yeah.
Frito, he's gonna give us a ride back to the time machine. I hope he's okay to drive.
It's you. Oh, man, I really love your show.
Thank you so much.
Joe, I'm not going.
What?
I had some pretty bad habits back there that I don't want to fall into again. Maybe it's time I got a new start. Besides, they offered me a pretty good job at Starbucks here. I'm gonna be a CEO.
At Starbucks?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're still gonna paint, though, right?
Yeah. Sure.
I guess this is goodbye, then.
I got a couple presidential decrees to make. Not sure? Get your ass up here, wherever you is. Look at that, get your peanut head up in here. Yo, I have decided to make this man the man who solved all our problems. I have decided to make him my new vice president.
Mr. President, well, thanks. That's real cool of you, sir, but I can't accept it, sir.
What? Why?
Well, you know, I gotta get home.
We still got all these problems.
Well, look, you know, you're just gonna have to solve them yourselves.
How?
Well, you know, think about it. You know, you're just gonna have to figure it out, you know, like we did with the crops.
But how are we gonna figure out about the garbage ambulances and Zuccotti?
And what about the nuclear reactor in Florida? It's broken, leaking, or something's happening.
I thought it was in Georgia.
Georgia's in Florida, dumbass.
Hey, I know. Let's put toilet water on it. Huh?
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
We did on the crops.
Come on, Pato. Hey, you can't leave. Whatever happened to all that lead, follow, get out of the way shit, huh?
I guess I just can't get out of the way anymore, can I? You know what? Forget about the time machine.
That ride sucks anyways.
Ride?
Welcome to the Time Machine. We are going to take you back, first to the year 1939, when Charlie Chaplin and his evil Nazi regime enslaved Europe and tried to take over the world.
So you knew this thing was just a ride the whole time?
Yeah. You thought you could really travel through time, huh?
Yeah, I guess I did.
Yeah. You're the smartest guy in the world. You're pretty dumb sometimes.
So why didn't you tell us?
Because I like money. I'm sorry.
But if it's not a real time machine, there wouldn't have been any money. You know, because I can't go back in time and open a savings account.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. It's okay. Well, I guess we're stuck here.
But then an even greater force emerged. The and the un-Nazi'd the world forever.
And so, after serving a short term as vice president, Joe was elected the president of America. Frito became vice president, and Rita, the former prostitute, became first lady.
Today I step into the shoes of a great man. A man by the name of Dwayne Elizondo Mountain Dew Herbert Camacho.
Under President Not Sure's leadership, a new era dawned.
You know, there was a time in this country when smart people were considered cool. Well, maybe not cool, but smart people did things like build ships and pyramids, and they even went to the moon. And there was a time in this country, a long time ago, when reading wasn't just for fags, and neither was writing. People wrote books and movies that had stories, So you cared whose ass it was and why it was farting, and I believe that time can come again.
Joe and Rita had 3 children, the 3 smartest kids in the world. Vice President Frito took 8 wives and had a total of 32 kids. 32 of the dumbest kids ever to walk the earth. Okay, so maybe Joe didn't save mankind, but he got the ball rolling, and that's pretty good for an average guy.
Simply being exploited by This video is brought to you by Audible. Visit audible.com/SarahZ or text SarahZ to 500-500 to get 1 month of Audible for free. In 2006, Mike Judge released a film by the name of Idiocracy. Taking place in a dystopian future hundreds of years after our own, the film centered itself around the premise that humanity was moving in a dumber and dumber direction. It told the story of Joe, an average human played by Luke Wilson, who was accidentally frozen for hundreds of years only to escape and discover a world that has become profoundly stupid. Essentially a fascist state largely propped up by megacorporations, the world caters to the lowest common denominator. Fast food, sex, and violence are the cornerstones, essentially only to escape and discover a world that has become profoundly stupid. Essentially a fascist state largely propped up by megacorporations, the world caters to the lowest common denominator. Fast food, sex, and violence are the cornerstones of this society. People drink sports drink instead of water, legal cases are determined based on vibes, and everything is bigger, simpler, and more expensive.
What I do is just say, you know, you know what I mean? Like,
Most notably, because there are no more smart people, the world's problems seem to have worsened with no one around to solve them. Landfills pile up with no strategy on how to deal with them, no one remembers how to grow crops anymore, and the economy is in a constant state of decline. The film's release was marked with challenges. 20th Century Fox, the company producing and distributing it, seemed totally uninterested in Idiocracy's success. Fox allegedly felt that Idiocracy's premise didn't test well with audiences who wouldn't understand or appreciate its humor, or with advertisers whose brands were largely portrayed in a negative light throughout the film, and so did little to no work promoting it.
I was telling everyone, this is the big one. Maya Rudolph, Dax Shepard, all these guys, Stephen Root, Mike Judge, it's gonna be great. The creator of Beavis and Butthead. And nothing. The rumor is that because we used real corporations in our comedy. I mean, Starbucks was giving hand jobs, and these companies gave us their name thinking they were gonna get pumped up. All these real corporations were like, wait a minute. There were a lot of people who were like backing out, but it was too late. And so Fox, who owned the movies, decided we're going to release this in as few theaters as legally possible.
The studio allegedly considered continually postponing its release. Trailers were not shown for the film, the studio released only 2 promotional stills for it, and it ran in only 6 cities across the United States. Despite its very limited publicity, Idiocracy released to generally positive reviews and gradually developed a cult following. In particular, it was praised for its incisive satire and social commentary. The film, which was written and released during the Bush era, was for many people the perfect encapsulation of a world run by its dumbest citizens, and its portrayal of for-profit healthcare and corporatocracy taken to a heightened extreme resonated with audiences. For years, Idiocracy remained a film that, while rarely on the list of viewers' best films, represented a satirical look into American capitalism and Bush-era nonsense, and was generally well-liked by audiences that enjoyed poking fun at, from their perspective, the less intelligent. But then 2016 happened. Exactly 10 years after the release of Idiocracy, Donald Trump was elected president, and the return to Idiocracy as a cultural touchstone was massive. 2016 saw think pieces about how the film was not only incredibly prescient, but now essentially a documentary, with some of its absurd satire hitting a little too close to home. Judge, as well as most of the film's cast, were full supporters of this notion, with Judge in particular repeatedly remarking on how Idiocracy had essentially become reality. He even famously remarked that the only reason he wasn't a prophet was because he was off by a few hundred years. In the words of film writer Ethan Cohen, "I never expected #Idiocracy to become a documentary." Writers often pointed out parallels between the world of Idiocracy and present-day America, though usually through a series of out-of-context recaps about the film's plot. Particularly frequent were comparisons between Trump and the ex-wrestler President Camacho in Idiocracy, played by Terry Crews, though parallels were also drawn between the populace in the movie refusing to believe that water is better for crops than energy drinks and modern-day climate change denialists. As Crews put it, the film is
so prophetic in so many ways, it actually scares people.
The 2016 election and ensuing everything cemented Idiocracy, previously a mildly popular cult classic satirizing life under Bush, as a cultural touchstone, and with it came the heightened prevalence of referencing Idiocracy less as an actual work itself and more as a concept. Idiocracy is literally a documentary has become an increasingly popular adage from members of all sides of the political spectrum, used in response to anything from Trump supporters existing to Biden supporters existing to people being woke and supporting social justice to TikTokers being given war briefings to just people making obvious jokes. Much like how people who have never read 1984 will frequently describe any governmental decision they disagree with as literally 1984, generally speaking, these people aren't necessarily referencing specific events from Idiocracy or looking back at the actual film itself so much as just invoking its name as shorthand for people are dumb. On the other hand, a sort of counter-narrative to Idiocracy has emerged, albeit a smaller and much less dominant one. Writers like Vice's Rick Paulus and Salon's Adam Johnson are among the few mainstream voices to deeply examine the actual text of the film, with both writers mainly criticizing its eugenic-y overtones, which, don't get me wrong, we're absolutely going to talk about. But I think there's more to discuss here about what Idiocracy is trying to say, what it actually does say, and how it fits into the mid-2000s cultural niche that produced it. With the mainstream public conception of Idiocracy having shifted from over-the-top satire to prophetic vision to cultural shorthand for anything people consider stupid, the film's actual text and ideology are often relatively unexamined. Mostly because a lot of conservatives using its name as a jab against progressives very clearly have not seen it and don't get that they are the butt of the joke for most of the film, but also, it goes far beyond that. Because as much as some progressives have praised it for its supposedly prophetic nature and bemoaned the state of the world as literally Idiocracy now, and as much as the counter-narrative against Idiocracy mainly critiques its implications of eugenics and not much else about the film, its actual text and message are actually very, very wrong about a large number of things. And so as much as I'm in agreement with general progressive sentiments criticizing political theater and unbridled corporate influence, I think it may be time for us to sit down and take another deeper look at the text of Idiocracy itself. Because as it turns out, it may be the case that, for many more reasons than we think, Idiocracy is bad, actually. Now, Mike Judge is no stranger to exploring the concepts of stupidity and ignorance. His big break was the show Beavis and Butthead, an MTV series primarily written, directed, animated, and voiced by Mike Judge. He would then go on to develop King of the Hill with a pre-Parks and Rec Greg Daniels, a show exploring the life of a blue-collar family in the town of not Garland, Texas. He would then make his live-action directing debut with Office Space, a film about the mundane madness of white-collar jobs. All of these were popular and had positive critical and audience reception, and honestly, yeah, I get why. A lot of it holds up really well. But what's really interesting is thinking about why these things work and why Idiocracy doesn't. So let's look at Beavis and Butthead first. The show is about the titular Beavis and Butthead, two best friends who are essentially too stupid to function in the world around them. They care only about heavy metal music, television, and sex. A basic Beavis and Butthead episode is incredibly short, originally about 11 minutes long, and can therefore usually tell a self-contained story in a pretty succinct way. Episodes would find the two causing some kind of chaos in their town, with emphasis placed on how they made the lives around them worse. It's not everybody's cup of tea, sure, and there's almost assuredly stuff that has aged poorly, but when it works, it does work, if anything, because of the way the episodes are structured. Beavis and Butthead are two characters too stupid to care about the nature of the world around them, and that's played for laughs against a mostly normal-seeming world. The humor, in turn, isn't just that the characters do or say something stupid, but the reactions and consequence that this has on everything else going on. It's two dumb characters in a sea of straight men, which makes the dumb antics funnier and also makes the wildness of anything else that happens stand out much more. Idiocracy, on the other hand, doesn't really get that because it's one straight man in an ocean of dumb, uncaring people. The joke becomes stale quickly because there's no real change in stakes in the world around the joke or how this affects the characters, because theoretically the only character that could be reasonably affected or who could care about what's going on is just Joe. Beavis and Butthead episodes start simple and get more and more chaotic, but Idiocracy has to start chaotic and then keep being there. And then you have the fact that characterizing someone who is dumb or stupid as being unable to personally care about or have empathy for anyone else around them is a lot easier to stomach when you have two dumb teenagers who seem to lack empathy, rather than an entire civilization and class of people who do. Empathy is a really strong point here because I feel like it's what Mike Judge's work is best at portraying. King of the Hill has maintained a passionate fan base for decades now and has a warm reputation for the way in which it demonstrates empathy toward its subject matter. Rather than simply make a show that goes, haha, look at those dumb redneck Texans, it was an attempt to showcase exactly how mindsets like this work and why people are like this. The central conflict of the show often comes down to relatively conservative Texan Hank Hill's struggle with the changing world and changing family unit around him as he tries to raise a son who is gradually becoming more progressive and open-minded than him. And rather than simply portray the Texan characters as simple, mindless, intolerant assholes, it asks why someone could be out of touch with the rest of the world and what they can do to change and grow from that. King of the Hill wasn't always perfect. It's hard to be when there's over 200 episodes. There are definitely moments where it does essentially create political straw men, and there's a lot you could say about how it deals with race. But for the most part, the show always at least attempted to understand the issues going on and approach them with an open and progressive mindset. It is, at its heart, a very kind show.
Why do you have to hate what you don't understand?
I don't hate you, Bobby.
I meant soccer.
Oh yeah, I hate soccer, yes.
Which makes Idiocracy feel even weirder because it is a decidedly unempathetic movie, especially when it comes to the lower classes. Fundamentally, this is a film that is deeply uninterested in the root causes of the problems it examines. So the world of Idiocracy is, in effect, a fascist police state.
This should help you calm down. Please come back when you can afford to make a purchase. Your kids are starving. Carl's Jr. believes no child should go hungry. You are an unfit mother. Your children will be placed in the custody of Carl's Jr.
Joe was arrested for not paying his hospital bill and not having his UPC tattoo. He would soon discover that in the future, justice was not only blind, but had become rather retarded as well.
This is a world where individuals are forced to have identifying marks on them at all times, a world where at any moment they could be thrown in prison where they suffer horrific abuse merely for the act of being poor, a world with massive economic hyperinflation and misinformation, and altogether the film does not care why. The closest Idiocracy gets to examining any kind of socioeconomic factors making the world the way it is in this scene here, where the film's narrator details why Brondo, the movie's equivalent to Gatorade, is served in all the drinking fountains and is used to water crops, having essentially completely replaced water.
Brondo Corporation simply bought the FDA and the FCC, enabling them to say, do, and sell anything they wanted.
And this is where it actually gets really interesting because there's an extended sequence describing how, hundreds of years ago, the Brondo Corporation began to buy out various US government agencies like the FDA, using their newfound control over the government to spread propaganda and misinformation about the nutritional value of their energy drink while downplaying that of water, misinformation that is now simply treated like fact. This is genuine commentary, satire that exaggerates a real thing that actually does happen. Corporations and interest groups lobbying government agencies and using that to control the flow of information. This is a real thing that happens. Lobbying from the NRA is the primary reason why the CDC is unable to meaningfully research gun violence. The dairy lobby spends stupid amounts of money to exaggerate dairy's nutritional value and push for its treatment as a meal staple. Much like how Brondo is now the primary thing people drink, a combination of corporate lobbying and unsafe drinking water is both the reason why milk is a cheap staple drink for kids in schools and the reason you have communities in countries like Mexico that have a much easier time accessing Coca-Cola than water, often at massive costs to their health. Corporations utilizing government channels to alter the flow of public information is incredibly common, and to this end, I think this scene is an effective piece of commentary that does a good job of alluding to why the world is like this. The interesting thing about this, though, is that the film proceeds to do absolutely nothing with it. When Joe encourages the people of this world to start using water on crops again, we meet the CEO of Brondo, and he's just some guy. An idiot who doesn't know what any of this shit is and is scared.
An emergency cabinet meeting was called with the CEO of the Brondo Corporation.
How come nobody's buying Brondo the thirst mutilator? And the stock has dropped to zero, and the computer did that auto layoff thing to everybody. We're all unemployed.
I think that makes the economy suck.
Why is this happening?
Hiring decisions on the company's part are made purely via artificial intelligence that seem to have been designed ages ago, presumably, or else who is programming this stuff. The CEO is completely bought into the company's lies and seems more confused than anything else, and this character then immediately disappears from the rest of the film. He isn't framed as particularly standing to profit from Brondo replacing water, nor does he do anything to suppress Joe's attempts at bringing water back. That instead comes from the public, who have bought into the company's lies and have lost their jobs after its stock plummeted. A populace who are described by the narrator as stupid for being upset by this.
When the Brondo stock suddenly dropped to zero, leaving half the population unemployed, dumb, angry mobs took to the streets, rioting and looting, and screaming for Joe's head.
The corporation, who we're briefly told literally altered the flow of public information to lie to people, aren't the primary actor driving this, nor are we meant to see them as malicious for doing so. Instead, we're invited to judge the populace for their stupidity for believing it, and it is the populace who do most of the harm here. This is the only time we're given an actual root cause for why a specific issue exists in the film. The rest of the time, whether it's healthcare is prohibitively expensive or the justice system is a broken farce, the answer is simply because people are stupid and this bad system is something a stupid person would come up with. It's the kind of lazy, self-congratulatory commentary on the world around us that fails to accomplish anything actually meaningful. As commentary on Bush-era politics, it's far more self-serving than productive. Wow, the government sure is doing bad things, huh? This is the kind of thing a stupid person would come up with. They're dumb, and that's bad. Well, that's not entirely true. Because actually that may be a much too charitable read of the film. The real answer as to why the world is like this is explicitly too many genetically stupid people are reproducing. That is the real answer that the film settles on.
With no natural predators to thin the herd, it began to simply reward those who reproduced the most and left the intelligent to become an endangered species.
So Idiocracy begins with a monologue laying out exactly why the world is as stupid as it is, and according to the text, the reason is because smart people don't want to have a bunch of children. Instead, they plan and wait for the right time.
Having kids is such an important decision.
We're just waiting for the right time. It's not something you want to rush into.
On the other hand, stupid people are careless, sex-obsessed degenerates who can only focus on having as many children as they possibly can as quickly as possible.
Oh shit, I'm pregnant again!
Shit! I got too many damn kids! Thought you was on the pill or some shit!
Hell no!
Must have been thinking of Brittany.
Brittany? No, you...
There's There's even a scene where it's implied that normally stupid people would simply die of their own stupidity before being able to reproduce, but because of the wonders of modern medicine, they can be saved and continue to have children.
Cleavon is lucky to be alive. He attempted to jump a jet ski from a lake into a swimming pool and impaled his crotch on an iron gate. But thanks to recent advances in stem cell research and the fine work of Doctors Krinsky and Altschuler, Cleavon should regain full reproduction. Reproductive function.
Get your hands off my junk!
Like, that scene is very much implying that the world would be a better place if that guy had died, right? An incredible message there. Besides the Brondo, I can't even, because of the wonders of modern medicine, they, no?
Must have been thinking of Brittany.
Brittany? No, you. There's even a scene where it's implied that normally stupid people would simply die of their own stupidity before being able to reproduce, but because of the wonders of modern medicine, they can be saved and continue to have children.
Cleavon is lucky to be alive. He attempted to jump a jet ski from a lake into a swimming pool and impaled his crotch on an iron gate. But thanks to recent advances in stem cell research and the fine work of Doctors Krinsky and Altschuler, Cleavon should regain full reproductive function.
Get your hands off my junk!
Like, that scene is very much implying that the world would be a better place if that guy had died, right? An incredible message there. Besides the Brondo, I can't even call it a subplot. Besides the brief mention of Brondo lying to people, this genetic dumbing down of the world is the fundamental building block upon which the rest of Idiocracy rests. The poor governmental decisions are the result of genetically inferior people existing and being given power. Average citizens are easily tricked and lied to by Joe and Rita because they are naturally stupid. The people don't realize water is better than sports juice because they are simply naturally equipped with low IQs. In fact, the film relies very, very heavily on IQ as a measure of intelligence, referencing it often. The people who populate the world of Idiocracy are not regular humans who are simply being exploited by corporations or by governments who do not care about them, but immutably biologically inferior individuals, implied to be the descendants of the people the movie considers in our actual current world to also be biologically inferior. There's a lot to talk about here. Because the film is a satire, exaggerating the worst aspects of our current world, the entire satirical premise rests heavily on the notion that the world is bad because our current world's dumbest people had too many kids and our current world's smartest people didn't have enough. And so it's first worth examining who this film is implicitly claiming should not reproduce as much. Poor people. The answer is poor people. From the very beginning, the film's visual shorthand immediately associates stupidity with being poor. The opening scene depicts these smart, high IQ people who happen to have money for things like financial planning and artificial insemination and seem to be comfortable. They're dressed in nice, well-fitting professional clothing in well-lit, clean, upper-middle-class settings. Meanwhile, the low IQ people who are presented as the eventual cause of humanity's doom are depicted as, well, trailer trash, living in shitty, rundown houses, speaking with thick southern accents, wearing dirty, ratty clothing, and having bad teeth. The whole opening, whether intentional or not, begins with the implication that those who speak with perceived undignified accents or who don't have the money to invest in things like proper child planning or other systems are inherently dumber and therefore worse for society than the upper middle class people who can.
The guys at Spectrum think I'm just some dumb hick. They said that to me at a dinner.
It's not even just the opening either. The entire film hinges on that comparison. The world in the future is, well, trashy, literally. The world is littered with trash. People don't bother to clean themselves or change their clothes, really. People all tend to speak with a mock, dumb voice, the type of voice you do when imitating a teacher you don't like. People don't really care about science or knowledge or reading. The world is littered with terrible fast food chains and junk food, where people are portrayed as stupid for eating Carl's Jr. and watching reality TV. These are portrayed as dumb things that dumb people do in the movie, but they also come with an asterisk in that these are also generally considered lower class things to do in our culture. And what this film doesn't understand, or at the very least doesn't care to address, is that a lot of these things are a byproduct of the socioeconomic factors a lot of low-income people have to deal with. People who are poor are going to be watching a lot of trash TV and eating a lot of fast food because they're not in a position where they can afford much other entertainment and often don't have the time nor money to get food better than whatever giant chains are available in those areas. Low-income people who have a lot of kids often do so because of a lack of access to contraceptives and a lack of sex education in many southern schools and red states. Once again, the film fails to understand that the problem goes deeper than just stupid people like to slurp from the cum bucket. A lot of the factors that lead to people in these sorts of situations are factors outside of their immediate control, often the result of government interference and regulations, religious pressure, and even just the economic need to have multiple hands in the household in some cases. Stupid people aren't having sex because they just love sex more than smart people do, and poor people aren't having more sex than rich people because they love sex more and don't know any better. It's a weird connection to try to make, and the problem is that the movie hinges entirely on it. While we're here, the way the film views sex in general is a bit strange. Part of the thing is that sex is a major sign of sin, stupidity, and depravity in the future. We're supposed to see its normalization here as a sign that things are wrong and bad. The plot hinges on it being bad that dumb people are having sex. Everyone in the film is obsessed with sex, to the point where the big point of tension at the end of the film is hoping that Dax Shepard can hold himself from jerking off long enough to get footage of the grown plants.
I like having sex with chicks.
Yeah. I gotta take care of some business, baby, so I need y'all to wait outside. You nice,
Hey, a couple of us guys were wondering, we go family style on her.
And additionally, sex work is seemingly legalized in the future with laws regarding the transactions between sex workers and clients. We see this, for example, in Girl of the movie, whose whole thing is that she's a girl and the joke is that she's a sex worker, and she is there with Joe, Rita, being arrested for not actually following through and scamming some random guy she was hustling. Most businesses offer some form of sex act with their primary service.
Don't worry, though. We'll get her out on a work release whoring license as long as you're doing her.
But the movie doesn't really explain why we're supposed to see this as a bad thing. Like, there could have been some commentary here on how businesses can exploit their workers and how the change to legalized corporation-controlled sex work is different than the current day, but nope. The joke starts and ends with the simple fact that dumb people like sex and dumb people are bad, therefore sex is also bad. Except when it's smart people having sex. Then it's good, actually, and they should be doing it more. This is a film that is not only uninterested in the existence of socioeconomic factors, but actually hinges on the audience disregarding them. The very premise of Idiocracy relies on socioeconomic factors having very little to do with why the world is the way it is. The film resolves itself not by the dumb populace recognizing that they are an exploited proletariat and advocating for better representation and living conditions, but by the dumb people learning to know their place and step aside so that a smart person can rule over them and make decisions on their behalf. Decisions that they are framed as being biologically incapable of making for themselves. The film needs Joe, not only as someone who remembers what the world was like 500 years ago and can show the people that they are being lied to, but as a person who is quite literally the genetic superior of everyone else and can therefore tell them what to do. If the people in Idiocracy are in any way Joe's equals, this film does not work, and so Idiocracy disregards any broader systemic explanations for the state of the world in favor of framing them as the product of immutable characteristics held by the general population that makes them biologically worse than the average person today. Not only that, but because they are the genetic offspring of our current world's cache of poor Southern conservative individuals, the implication is, again, that those people live the way they do, not as a result of those factors, but because of immutable genetic traits that they hold, usually expressed in the form of them having low IQ. This accomplishes several functions for the movie, and none of them are good. The first is that it frames the future's stupid people, and by extension the present's low-income rural conservatives, as naturally inferior. Politically, this accomplishes nothing because it allows the viewer, of whom Joe is a stand-in, to feel superior to the individuals who are themselves marginalized by regressive policies, but not to recognize where those policies come from, who stands to benefit from them, or what can actually be done to remedy them. It casts the very individuals who are acutely vulnerable against the things that appear in the movie, say over-policing, or food deserts, or a lack of birth control, or everything being unaffordable, as responsible for their own subjugation. If we believe the people who experience those things are simply genetically hardwired to be worse than us, we not only forego empathizing with them or seeing them as possible allies with whom organizing is possible, but we in fact see them as both responsible for and deserving of the life they experience. I've already talked about how that erases the most culpable actors for the ways in which those people live. Indeed, oftentimes the living conditions in rural, politically conservative regions are the result of regressive policies, often born of gerrymandering and voter suppression, especially of people of color. There are a number of actors who benefit from the kinds of policies that screw people in those regions over. They don't just happen because those people are stupid. For example, the reason you have prohibitively expensive healthcare in the States in real life is not because the people coming up with policies that privatize healthcare are stupid, nor because the people who vote for those politicians are stupid. It is because powerful actors, especially private insurance and pharmaceutical companies, stand to financially benefit from healthcare's privatization. What this film would have us believe, however, is that those policies were invented as a product of stupidity. This not only ignores the influence of those powerful entities in favor of shifting focus onto the rural poor, but also implies the harm that they do enact is a result of stupidity and neither calculated malice nor financial incentives. In actuality, the powerful do not, say, make prisons horrible as they are an idiocracy because they are stupid. That is not a bad policy because stupid people designed it. It is a bad policy because we live in a capitalist system that prioritizes profit above all else, and individuals connected to the private prison industry with a direct financial incentive to cram people into prisons designed it. They are not stupid. They know what they are doing, and they are doing it on purpose. So the implication that these kinds of policies the film is satirizing come from a stupid world and not from a world full of perverse incentives erases this root cause and makes it seem as though both the system's enactors and its victims are simply biologically worse than the rest of us. The film's second function is to tell us what ought to be done about it. Idiocracy tells us two things here, and both of them are bad. I briefly touched on the way in which the film resolves itself, by Joe, now the smartest man on Earth, becoming president and thus being able to make decisions for the rest of the country. With his ability to bring common sense back to people with ideas like use water to grow crops and don't flatten people with monster trucks for fun, the world slowly starts to become a better place. Again, because everyone in this movie is implied to be stupid in an immutable and fundamental way, Joe is really the only person who can be in charge throughout this. Every other person in the film, with the exception of Rita, who is there to be a hot girl, is not only the butt of the film's jokes, but is also unchangeably stupid. The other sidekick the film has follow Joe around is his lawyer, Frito Pendejo. Yes, that is his real name.
Says here you, robbed a hospital? Why'd you do that?
Yeah, I'm not guilty.
That's not what the other lawyer said.
He, like everyone else, is portrayed as a complete idiot, unable to understand basic concepts like which numbers are bigger than other numbers and why Joe is innocent of his charges early on in the movie. Joe ropes him into helping with the main plot via deception, and he never changes or grows throughout the entire movie. Even as he plays a pivotal role in the end of Idiocracy and helps uncover the fact that water grows crops, he does so completely accidentally and never has any sort of breakthrough moment where he demonstrates his ability to meaningfully retain new information or really grow. It's actually kind of odd because the film has this heartwarming moment in the end of them becoming friends, despite them having never bonded and us never learning anything about Frito as a person or seeing him grow beyond anything but the butt of the joke used to highlight how dumb the rest of the world is. Regardless, the introduction and continued depiction of Frito in this movie helps sell the fact that the people in this world are not only predisposed to be stupid, but they are unchangeably so, to the extent that even being present for the entire plot of the movie does nothing to alter Frito's stupidity. Joe needs to lead, because no matter how much education the people of this world are given, and no matter how much their circumstances change, they are worse than him and they will always be worse than him. The implication for our real world, then, is that there exists a certain group of people who are stupid, and again, the way this film uses visual shorthand to indicate who these people are is fundamentally linked to poverty, and that those people will always be stupid and simply need to learn to shut up and let smart people tell them what to do. This is an incredibly common idea, one that we heard repeated all the time in the Bush era and again in the Trump era. Time and time again, support for regressive ideals in conservative regions is oversimplified into an issue of stupidity, with the prevailing idea being that what those people really need more than anything else is to simply simply learn their place and listen to the smarts. The smart will always biologically be smart and should rule. The dumb will always biologically be dumb and should obey. It's an easy trap to fall into when expressing frustration at the state of the world, but it's an insanely regressive ideal, one that directly ignores material conditions and tells the most exploited people who, both in our own world and that of Idiocracy, are living in a world that is genuinely hostile to them and has serious ramifications, that they do not need liberation or political organization that makes it easier for them to have a voice, but instead that they need to shut up and do what they are told. Telling the people who are the most marginalized and excluded from systems of political representation that what they need is less of it is certainly interesting. Not only that, but because the root cause of the proliferation of this stupidity is very explicitly treated as not just poor people existing and holding power and making bad decisions, but reproducing too much and having too many kids, the film's implications for our only actual path forward are very dark and insanely regressive. That's also why Rita is in this movie, despite existing as nothing more than a hot girl for characters to leer at and make sex worker jokes at, because she is another person of biological average intelligence for Joe to reproduce with in the end and continue on the line of good genes. Let me be clear. There is a word for the implication that the world is made a worse place due to certain people below a specific threshold of intelligence reproducing on a large scale, and that the world would be a better place if safeguards were in place to prevent this from happening. That word is eugenics, and the ideology that Idiocracy very proudly espouses from the get-go is incredibly supportive of this. The film has Joe give a nice little speech about how he wants to create a world where it's cool for people to be smart and read books. A speech that rings really hollow when we've just been shown via characters like Frito and via the narration that starts at the very beginning of the movie that the people in this film are dumb because of low IQ and that can never be meaningfully altered. We then get some snarky narration noting the fact that Joe and Rita have a few smart kids at the end of the movie and Frito Pendejo has a bunch of really dumb ones. This continued implication that the world's problems are a direct result of immutably genetically stupid people breeding contains within it the implication that preventing this is the only way to curb those problems. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the continued legacy of eugenics, the ideas that Idiocracy flirts with here are not in fact hypothetical. Much like Idiocracy does, eugenic ideals typically rely on the idea of immutable generalized intelligence, often expressed via IQ, a concept Idiocracy loves and makes constant reference toward. IQ itself is nearly a pop culture staple, with the idea of an objective numerical representation of one's general intelligence being constantly referenced in modern culture. It's ubiquitous enough in our collective pop science consciousness that I'm genuinely expecting outrage and backlash for noting that IQ is effectively complete pseudoscience. For one, the idea that there even exists an immutable general intelligence that individuals are born with for IQ to measure in the first place is incredibly shaky. This idea of general intelligence, sometimes called the G factor, is typically born of the idea that, broadly speaking, performance on certain aspects of intelligence tests seems to be positively correlated with performance on others. Or in other words, people who are good at one part of an intelligence test generally tend to be good at other parts and vice versa. The conclusion people usually draw then is that there's some kind of central universal intelligence factor that you either do or do not have. The issue, though, is that there's never been any actual research success in finding this supposed factor. Researchers have proposed explanations ranging from brain size to the possession of some kind of central intelligence energy, but none of them have historically done a sufficient job at proving that this factor exists at all. We know some people perform better at intelligence tests than others, and we know that there exists variation in people's abilities in terms of specific areas like spatial reasoning, but what we don't actually know for sure is that there exists this immutable central type of intelligence that you are born with that either exists or doesn't. The concept of general intelligence is often stated as fact in a way that kind of obfuscates this. Secondly, the idea that, should general intelligence exist at all, we can numerically measure it in a way that is accurate, objective, and free of human bias is just laughably incorrect. IQ as a measure of intelligence is an incredibly flawed one. The tests themselves are revised fairly often, about once a decade. The last time was in 2014, and before that it was 2003, and test scores themselves appear to be rising on average along with them. These are, at their core, imperfect tests, ones that have themselves been exploited by humans to engineer specific results and often generate support for racist policies. IQ tests tend to show significant gaps across racial lines, with Black populations on average performing worse than white ones at the same test. This is a fact that's been historically used time and time again to disenfranchise Black people. Louisiana, for example, used to employ an intelligence test that they forced some citizens to take before allowing them to vote. In practice, of course, Black people were disproportionately forced to take it, and the questions themselves were often just short of complete nonsense designed to confuse rather than to actually measure any kind of literacy or intelligence. During the 1920s, low IQ test scores were largely blamed on both progressive social policies and on interracial mixing, and were used by its proponents like psychologist Carl Brigham to argue for greater levels of racial segregation and for the curbing of immigration. Even in the modern day, though, these gaps in IQ performance are often used to argue for some kind of genetic predisposition of Black people to be less intelligent than white people. Books like Charles Murray's 1994 The Bell Curve not only makes this argument, but essentially makes the same argument as Idiocracy, that IQ itself is the primary predictor of individuals' success in life, and that much of our current disenfranchisement can be chalked up to these IQ gaps. Incidentally, if you're looking for an incredibly thorough debunking of the bell curve, Sean has a great video on the topic, which I'll link in the description. It's a far better takedown of a lot of these ideas than I could ever make, and I'd highly recommend you check it out. But in effect, IQ, despite its flawed nature, has been and continues to be used in support of racist policies and to justify current social disenfranchisement. it makes the claim that fixed and unchangeable general intelligence exists and can even be measured in this way. In actuality, IQ tests 1 can be studied for like any other test, thereby increasing your score, which in itself really debunks the notion that it measures any kind of fixed quality in a person. 2 is largely influenced by an individual's environment, which is why you actually see increases in IQ test scores when children are adopted into higher income homes where they have access to better nutrition and education, and why we might see lower results among racial groups who tend to, on average, experience not only greater poverty but also greater discrimination, and are also not generally the people designing these tests. And 3, once again, show results increasing by about 3 points per decade, which would not be happening without a society that changes en masse. Especially notable with regards to perceived racial gaps on intelligence tests are 2 factors: cultural awareness and stereotype threat. The first indicates that some tests largely measure cultural awareness rather than an objective body of knowledge connecting to intelligence, leading people who are not members of the cultural groups designing those tests to perform worse on them. The second is the concept of stereotype threat, which suggests that individuals who are aware of negative stereotypes pertaining to their intelligence are less likely to perform well on intelligence tests, largely as a result of the anxieties associated with those tests. In fact, we've seen numerous studies wherein groups of black test takers were given intelligence tests, and the groups that were not told the tests measured IQ actually performed better, suggesting that something about knowing they were taking an IQ test directly led to worse performance. Along with cultural awareness in test design and how the stress and trauma of marginalization at a young age can impact a person's development, the concept of stereotype threat suggests a direct causal link not between the natural and used by its opponents like psychologist Carl Brigham to argue for greater levels of racial segregation and for the curbing of immigration. Even in the modern day, though, these gaps in IQ performance are often used to argue for some kind of genetic predisposition of black people to be less intelligent than white people. Books like Charles Murray's 1994 The Bell Curve not only makes this argument, but essentially makes the same argument as Idiocracy, that IQ itself is the primary predictor of individuals' success in life, and that much of our current disenfranchisement can be chalked up to these IQ gaps. Incidentally, if you're looking for an incredibly thorough debunking of the bell curve, Sean has a great video on the topic, which I'll link in the description. It's a far better takedown of a lot of these ideas than I could ever make, and I'd highly recommend you check it out. But in effect, IQ, despite its flawed nature, has been and continues to be used in support of racist policies and to justify current social disenfranchisement. It makes the claim that fixed and unchangeable general intelligence exists and can even be measured in this way. In actuality, IQ tests 1 can be studied for like any other test, thereby increasing your score, which in itself really debunks the notion that it measures any kind of fixed quality in a person. 2 is largely influenced by an individual's environment, which is why you actually see increases in IQ test scores when children are adopted into higher income homes where they have access to better nutrition and education, and why we might see lower results among racial groups who tend to, on average, experience not only greater poverty but also greater discrimination, and are also not generally the people designing these tests. And 3, once again, show results increasing by about 3 points per decade, which would not be happening without a society that changes en masse. Especially notable with regards to perceived racial gaps on intelligence tests are 2 factors: cultural awareness and stereotype threat. The first indicates that some tests largely measure cultural awareness rather than an objective body of knowledge connecting to intelligence, leading people who are not members of the cultural groups designing those tests to perform worse on them. The second is the concept of stereotype threat, which suggests that individuals who are aware of negative stereotypes pertaining to their intelligence are less likely to perform well on intelligence tests, largely as a result of the anxieties associated with those tests. In fact, we've seen numerous studies wherein groups of black test takers were given intelligence tests, and the groups that were not told the tests measured IQ actually performed better, suggesting that something about knowing they were taking an IQ test directly led to worse performance. Along with cultural awareness in test design and how the stress and trauma of marginalization at a young age can impact a person's development, the concept of stereotype threat suggests a direct causal link not between the natural intelligence of people of color and their test performance, but actually a link between test performance and racism. Even with the most culturally aware tests, this is a very difficult gap to surmount and makes it clear that these tests and testing cannot be considered objective measures of general intelligence on their own. And to be completely frank, we can't divorce any of this discussion from the very real fact that these tests have historically been used in service of horrifically racist and ableist policies in general, and specifically in service of eugenic policies. What does that look like in practice? The most obvious one is that of forced sterilization. It's one that Idiocracy never explicitly advocates for, but by not only relying on IQ, but also making the argument that social problems result from dumb people breeding too much, it at the very least flirts with. In actuality, women have been subject to policies of forced sterilization throughout the US and Canada for a variety of reasons, and poor performance on IQ tests is just one of them. In 1895, a law was passed in Connecticut preventing people considered mentally deficient from marrying one another, a law designed specifically to curb childbearing among those groups. In 1907, Indiana was the first state to pass a law allowing for, in the words of author and eugenics expert Adam Cohen, forced sterilization of people judged to have hereditary defects. In 1924, the state of Virginia mandated sterilization of individuals found to be intellectually disabled, explicitly for the purpose of improving the gene pool. An 18-year-old girl named Carrie Buck, who was living at an institution for people found to be mentally disabled and who had already previously given birth, was mandated to be sterilized explicitly on the basis that her continued ability to have children threatened the genetic fabric of society, and her case was used as the prototype for eugenicists to further argue that this should be made a widespread policy. Buck's lawyer was himself a eugenicist who made a very poor case for her, and she was found to be literally unfit to reproduce. Not only was she forcibly sterilized, the precedent the case set allowed for this to happen to 70,000 other people who were considered mentally disabled after the Supreme Court ruled that Buck's forced sterilization was constitutional. It was, in fact, these American policies of eugenics that served as the inspiration and building blocks for similar and worse policies overseas, particularly in Nazi Germany. In 1933, after Nazi Germany adopted a law allowing for government councils to decide which individuals deemed mentally deficient were and were not fit to reproduce, American eugenicist Harry Laughlin published a paper by a Nazi scientist bragging about how Germany learned from the US. In fact, the case of Buck v. Bell was actually cited by Nazis in defense of their own policies when they were placed on trial at Nuremberg. Similar forced sterilization has occurred numerous times throughout Canadian history as well, especially to Indigenous women, who are often still pressured into it to this day. Once again, the use of intelligence tests as a justification for this is long-standing, with the reasoning explicitly being that the continued ability for low IQ individuals to reproduce is harmful to society and is the root of numerous social problems. And this argument is the exact same one made by Idiocracy, that the continued ability for low IQ individuals to reproduce is harmful to society and is the root of its social problems. So not only is this argument dangerous because of the way it obfuscates those social problems' real causes and thus achieves nothing in a political sense, but the film is also very explicitly eugenicist. I don't necessarily think Judge set out to make a film that acts in support of eugenics. He was asked about these critiques as part of a 10-year anniversary interview and essentially expressed that he didn't intend to make a eugenicist movie, and that the opening of Idiocracy argues that both a combination of nature and nurture led to the world being as stupid as it is. In Judge's words, "I obviously don't believe in eugenics. I think you could look at it both ways. You have this couple that's trying to be so responsible that they end up never having kids. Then there's another couple who just irresponsibly keeps having them and not raising them right. So, you know, if the other couple adopted the other kids, I'm sure they would probably be better off." I believe Judge here when he expresses that this wasn't the intent, but regardless, the film very explicitly not only makes the case that the worsening of the gene pool exists and is bad, but also that it causes the real-world social problems that the film repeatedly exaggerates and satirizes. When Judge makes the argument here that the other people in the film, the ones portrayed as dumb and irresponsible, keep having them and not raising them right, he is again attributing this to the same natural biological factors that the rest of the film does. He portrays the solution to this problem, one that the film, by the way, does not propose, as simply having responsible individuals raise the same children who are nevertheless still biologically inclined to be stupid, as per Judge's argument. This not only disregards the aforementioned socioeconomic factors in favor of the claim that some people are simply naturally inclined to be bad and stupid, but only deepens the argument that the groups portrayed in the film are inherently unfit to raise children. When you have real children who are actually taken away from their homes as a result of neglect stemmed not by malice or stupidity, but expressly by poverty rather than attempting to fix the root causes of those issues, you can see why implicitly advocating for this is especially dangerous. And rather than analyze why one couple might be unfit to raise children and address those base issues, this instead suggests that some demographics of people are just naturally better parents. And so, while I do not think Idiocracy as a film is intentionally eugenicist, the very premise on which the movie hinges, and thus the premise Judge is still defending here, even unintentionally, nevertheless continues the long and incredibly storied legacy of real-world eugenics. Idiocracy is fundamentally, explicitly, a film steeped in a eugenicist premise and eugenicist arguments. This issue is deepened by the fact that the film very closely ties these characters' kindness and empathy to their intelligence. The way Idiocracy presents them isn't just as dumb, but almost seemingly incapable of being human. Most of them lack a basic understanding of the world around them, don't seem interested in anyone else, can't keep attention for longer than 5 seconds, and most worryingly, display almost no empathy or compassion for other people. There are few, if any, moments in the film where a character shows sympathy toward Joe and Rita, or any sense of understanding or connecting with them on any deeper level.
Do you really want to live in a world where you try to blow up the one person that's trying to help you?
Once again, it's worth acknowledging that this is a very real stereotype about intellectually disabled people, and whether or not the film's characters are expressly intellectually disabled, this still continues that perception of them. This is especially clear with Frito, as although his character is supposed to become a good friend of our leads, he doesn't really seem to care about them. He gets roped into the plot for money, and by the end of the film, he's still in it for money. He doesn't care about anything going on. Nobody besides Joe and Rita show any care for anything because they're just too dumb to think to do that. Besides the horrifying implications of this film's politics and the very mean and unempathetic way in which Idiocracy treats its subjects, this is also notable for how very dated it makes the film feel in retrospect. Despite many of the claims that this film is more relevant now than ever, Idiocracy really feels like a perfect encapsulation of mid-2000s culture. For one, we've already talked about the strange way this film treats sex, and I would be remiss not to acknowledge that that is because Idiocracy is really a product of its time. This was the age where a wave of sex comedies, including the likes of American Pie, 1999, Old School 2003, also starring Luke Wilson, and Eurotrip 2004, was reaching its bursting point. The fifth American Pie film was released direct-to-video a few months after Idiocracy's limited release. This era saw a lot more raunch and, paradoxically, a lot more slut-shaming in the media, and the concept of hypersexualization was on everybody's minds. Things like Starbucks offering full-body lattes serve as that perfect time capsule of an era where restaurants like Hooters culturally mattered, and we all thought that Starbucks was terrible, not because of their consumer practices or anything moral, but rather simply because they were popular, which was a very, very common way to view Starbucks in the late aughts. The very mid-2000s nature of Idiocracy also extends to the ways in which this film treats slurs.
Joe was able to understand them, but when he spoke in an ordinary voice, he sounded pompous and f***y to them.
It says on your chart that you're fucked up. You talk like a f***, and your shit's all f***ed.
Okay, number one, Your Honor. Just look at him.
He talks like a f***, too.
On one hand, the film is providing semi-progressive commentary on the ways in which slurs should and shouldn't be used. So the R slur and F slur are used repeatedly by people from regular everyday Joes to higher members of government. Idiocracy really is a product of, and is commenting on, an insanely homophobic era where it took incredibly little to be labeled as gay and accordingly bombarded with slurs and violence for the most minor deviations from social norms. The film clearly views this as not okay, and we're supposed to judge the characters for using these slurs so liberally and see it as an expression of their stupidity, which is, you know, more progressive a sentiment than most comedies at the time were attempting. Characters are frequently cast as idiots as the butt of the joke for defaulting to homophobia instead of making intelligent points. But at the same time, a lot of the humor is derived from the fact that a slur is being said without real commentary on the use of the word or why it's bad or anything of that sort. The film even ends with Joe saying the F slur in his presidential speech in a moment meant to show how he's acclimating to the culture and appealing to the common man. Really, when you get down to it, the movie sees the slurs as bad not because of the fact that they're words with a long history tied to discrimination, homophobia, ableism, and abuse, but rather because they're dumb words that dumb people love to say, so of course they're being used, and it's funny that they're saying it because they're dumb. In fact, part of the comedy often comes from the irony that the people Idiocracy understands to be low IQ are calling things the R word. The joke at many points then seems to be that it's ironic that they're calling things the R word when they themselves are so stupid. So while it's true that we're not supposed to see the use of slurs in the film as a good thing, using them for comedy without a clear indication of the power and history of the words being used and framing them mainly as one, funny, and two, said by dumb people not because of bigotry but because they are dumb, makes it fundamentally not much different than using it as a joke in the same way the characters do. This is all why it's so strange to see Idiocracy being described as a documentary or finally coming true or ahead of its time, because it was never ahead of its time. It was always a reflection of culture in the 2000s. It was very much commentary on that specific moment, and most of its humor comes from commenting on things that we in the 2000s thought were culturally important. It is very much a product of the dude bro vulgar comedy era of the late aughts. Even looking at its DVD cover, which feels right at home with the era of direct-to-DVD American Pie and Van Wilder sequels. But beyond that era's comedy, it's also a representation of its political climate. Idiocracy was written in the midst of the Bush administration, and it's very noticeable. This was a time when anti-Bush sentiment was approaching a high, when the viewpoints of modern culture was that Bush was a dumb Texas frat boy who had gotten America wrapped up in conflicts that people didn't fully understand or care about, and that he didn't fully understand or care about. It was the time of the Iraq War and Hurricane Katrina, where people could see the ways in which their nation's leaders were failing and actively endangering their own people. When viewed from this lens, Idiocracy makes a lot of sense, as it's clear that its view of dumb, poor people ruining the world is expressing the worry that the current political leader is going to fuck up the entire planet solely because he's too stupid to actually care or know any better. It's also a good representation of that time politically because it perfectly conveys that era's level of smugness. The 2000s were an interesting time politically, a time controlled largely by conservative powers. And not to stereotype a whole subset of people during this period, but it was a period of a lot of liberal smugness in response to that. There was this prevailing attitude of superiority against conservatives, not just morally, but also intellectually. And you can argue that this is the case, that leftist talking points can often be backed up by more research and are supported by studies and whatnot, but the problem is that this can also create an after effect of not just assuming that you are smart, but also assuming that your own opposition is dumb. This was the era that brought us Jon Stewart's Daily Show, The Colbert Report, and most regrettably, real-time with Bill Maher. I'm not going to say that these programs were all bad, though Bill Maher is, but rather that they're representative of the attitude a lot of progressive media had toward Bush and the US Republican Party during this time. A lot of the humor and commentary derived not from carefully picking apart what the other person was saying, or arguing against them, or standing up for the people hurt by the right, but rather pointing out how silly and stupid and dumb conservatives are. A lot of humor back then was simply playing back things that Bush or some other conservative politician said, and then guffawing about it and commenting on it as if it's Mystery Science Theater.
The McCain-Palin campaign is spreading the love to all the middle class.
Joe the plumber and Ed the dairyman.
Rose the teacher and Phil the bricklayer and Wendy the waitress.
Jane the engineer and Molly the dental hygienist and Chuck the teacher.
I believe they went on to single out Bob the Builder, Dora the Explorer, and Thomas the Tank Engine.
Governor Bush, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I'm not so sure the role of the United States is to go around the world and say this is the way it's got to be.
All right, well, that's interesting.
I give people the truth unfiltered by rational argument. I call it the no-fact zone. Fox News, I hold a copyright on that term.
George Bush is the crazy person we need to keep an eye on. He needs to stop taking money from the pharmaceutical lobby and start accepting samples. Do you have trouble organizing words into a coherent sentence? Do you hear voices that aren't really there? Like, oh, I don't know, your imaginary friend Jesus.
Idiocracy falls into this same trap. Rather than apply any meaningful systemic, cultural, or socio-political critique regarding the state of the world, the government, or how people end up like this, it instead wants to be a celebration of not being like that. Literally creating a world in which a basic average guy is treated as the next second coming because he happens to be smarter than the idiots he's surrounded by. There's a through line between the attitudes shown off in Idiocracy and future displays we would see like 2010's Rally to Restore Sanity. It's a through line that, to be honest, has continued to this day, which is where you see YouTube series consisting simply of asking Americans questions and then cropping all the dumb ones together and making fun of them.
Does anybody in this rally know what the fuck they're talking about? Are you a doctor?
No.
Are you a doctor?
I'm not a doctor, no. No, I'm not a doctor.
Are you a doctor or a medical professional?
Nope.
No, you just...
I'm in natural therapies.
Are you a doctor?
No, not at all.
I've got a Trump pamphlet here, but I've replaced all the quotes with Hitler quotes.
Great liars are also great magicians. Wow. Well, I think that, you know, he's gonna lie in any way, probably to, like, support the country, to keep the country going.
Trump gave permission for racists to come out of the closet. But now this whole vaccine stuff and mask stuff has given permission for the crazies to come out of the closet. So if the other guys took off their hoods, these guys took off their straitjackets. So now they're going around going, I know better than all the scientists in the world and all the doctors in the world. Oh, it's gonna make you sick.
Some people do not buy into that because they did a Google search and Jenny McCarthy popped up and she had clothes on. So they listened to what she had to say and decided not to vaccinate their kids. Now, and by the way,
this is also why you saw a lot of the Idiocracy as a documentary takes right around the beginnings of the Trump administration. Much like Bush, Trump was also characterized as being incredibly stupid, not knowing what words are, not able to control himself, the lowbrow idea of what a rich person is. This was the time when Trump would tweet something out like Kafifi and we'd all clown on him and talk about how he's so dumb and how silly it is for the president of the United States to tweet out a typo.
Despite the constant negative press, Covfefe.
Despite the constant negative press, Covfefe. This is the part of the assisted living facility commercial where the grown-up children say, that's when we knew Dad could no longer live on his own. And, yeah.
It was only natural for people to see the similarities in Idiocracy as they entered a similar political climate once again. But ultimately, the return of this kind of mindset, harmless as it may seem, spells something sincerely concerning for the way we look at our opposition. It allows us to imagine a world that is fundamentally broken, not because powerful actors are at work making it this way, but because we are simply better than other people and always will be. Ironically, despite being an anti-conservative government narrative, it's one that encourages complacency within them because instead of stoking any real change, it instead teaches us that this change is impossible to strive for. There is no meaningful praxis that results from telling the average vaguely progressive individual that we are fundamentally inclined to make better decisions because we are naturally better. It's just an easily digestible platitude designed to make us feel superior, but not motivated to enact any real change or identify the deeper sources of inequality and dangerous policymaking. It makes us feel good and doesn't accomplish a single goddamn thing otherwise. Also, it just makes us look like twats. Everyone who's like that is so fucking unbearable to be around. Look, make no mistake. Trump is fucking stupid, and in a lot of ways Bush was too. But to portray them all as imbeciles whose policies are the result of their own stupidity is to miss the point that these administrations and these governments as a whole were deliberately structured, motivated attempts to seize as much political capital as possible, strip away rights from minorities, and harm as many people in other nations as they could. The Bush administration was dangerous, and Bush being stupid or a dumb hick was the least of the problems there. The main problems were instead the untold amounts of harm that administration did toward people both in the States and overseas. Trump may be dumb as shit, but his administration caused a lot of pain and suffering for minorities and immigrants, and some people won't ever recover. It doesn't matter if the person at the front is dumb, because there's always people making concentrated and calculated efforts in order to benefit themselves and hurt the people they dislike. Not to mention the fact that stupidity is not itself the root cause of bigotry. There are a lot of people who are very well educated, who are very well spoken, who are not the very smug mid-2000s liberals' perception of a stupid person, who in fact will act repeatedly and deliberately to enact bigotry against the people they dislike. Similarly, you have people who are not necessarily well educated, who may themselves be the exact stereotype of person Idiocracy is trying to portray, who are incredibly kind and compassionate individuals who don't possess bigotry toward one another. The link between stupidity and bigotry is one that was incredibly popular to make during that time, is still incredibly popular to make, and is one that the film makes itself, but is in and of itself just not correct. That erases where bigotry comes from and gives us a very skewed perception of what a bigot looks like and why they believe the things they do. That's why this film's President Camacho is not really a good metaphor for Trump. Camacho in the movie is dumb, but seemingly well-meaning, wanting to help his people and willing to accept new ideas if it means bettering his society. His cabinet is, at worst, uncaring and unprepared for what they're about to do. Even the people who pay off the government Brando seem at this point to be too stupid and ignorant of actual science to understand that what they're doing is wrong. They are, at best, well-intentioned idiots. But the real world is not like that. Gas companies have known about climate change since at least the late 50s and have repeatedly paid off politicians to turn the other way. Politicians pass and support bills they know are both unconstitutional and unethical solely to pollute political discourse, no matter how many minorities they hurt in the process. You can joke about how dumb and unenforceable trans bathroom bans bans are and how ex-politician clearly doesn't understand how this will practically work, but do you think they care? Their goal is to spread hate and harm the people they wish to harm, and that's what they're going to keep doing. Some see the lack of an all-out bad guy in Idiocracy as a sign of the movie's nuance, that it refuses to outright condemn or vilify anyone and instead extends grace to everyone at the end. But not only is this not true because of the ways in which it portrays lower-class people, the refusal to really vilify anyone or anything or any system beyond just being stupid means that it misses the mark on being any actually effective social commentary because it's not really commenting much on anything. If anything, its usage of eugenics as a setup makes the movie feel more pessimistic overall. It presents to us a world that can never truly change because people are too genetically stupid to better themselves on their own, and our only hope is two smart people repopulating the world Adam and Eve style. Weirdly enough, there is an actual movie in which an average guy in a consumer-driven, dumbed-down, propaganda-filled world is placed in a position of importance over everyone else and has to deal with going from being a normal person to a supposed savior of humanity. It's called The Lego Movie, and it actually manages to tell the story of Idiocracy better than Idiocracy. It has an actual understanding of how the flow of information can be utilized in order to pacify a population from seeing the issues in the world around them, and that said methods are often utilized in order for those in power to maintain it. It's also just a better movie, let's be real. But for an even more direct comparison, if you want a piece of adult media that's as much of a social satire and vulgar comedy as Idiocracy, look at Sorry to Bother You. Much like Idiocracy, it came out in the middle of a divisive conservative American administration and comments on American culture and social issues at the time. It takes place in a world much like our own, but with exaggerated differences in order to satirize our current reality. It showcases a world in which capitalism and corporatization have expanded to absurd degrees and have made most of the population ignorant and compliant. And much like Idiocracy's Ow My Balls and the Lego Movie's Honey Where Are My Pants, Sorry to Bother You has its own fake mindless TV show, I Got the Shit Kicked Out of Me. The thing that makes Sorry to Bother You not just better than Idiocracy, but an excellent movie in its own right is that it does deeply understand how capitalism ruins society and how intentional that process is, and it satirizes it brilliantly. The film starts with Cassius Green taking a job at a call center and continues in absurdity until he's selling weapons of war and actual people for profit. And when you do meet Armie Hammer's Bezos-inspired character later on, he's clearly an idiot, but he's also one who knows what he's doing. He's fully aware that he's manipulating those around him into selling off their souls and signing their lives into horse people slavery. That sounds buck wild, but it makes sense in context. Watch the movie, it's great. The point of the world in Sorry to Bother You being stupid isn't the fact that the people are naturally biologically dumb, but it's an actual commentary on how corporations with a direct interest in doing so have ruined this world. Frankly, if Idiocracy wanted to succeed in the same way Sorry to Bother You does, they should not have framed the Brando Corporation as run by an idiot who is completely bought into his own propaganda and has no real understanding of what's going on or seeming interest in continuing to deliberately lie to the public. The company did not need to be run by a bunch of calculating super geniuses. That isn't true to life either, and the idea that these CEOs are just naturally smarter than everybody else is also propaganda, but they should have stood to benefit from their concerted campaign of lying to the public and have known this and acted accordingly. If they wanted this to be an effective metaphor for the actions of oil companies or an effective critique of corporate lobbying in general, that needed to be present. Otherwise, you run the risk of framing stupidity as the driving motivator for corporations misinforming the public, rather than getting at any deeper systemic critiques of capitalism and how a system that prioritizes unfettered growth at all costs is necessarily going to incentivize the destruction of many ways of human life when they get in the way of profit. But by accurately placing the blame on capitalism, we're forced to admit that these situations are systemic and do not simply arise because people are stupid, quite the contrary actually, and we're no longer emboldened to feel good about our own intelligence at the cost of creating any real change. Unsurprisingly then, the film didn't go in this direction. I think the thing that gets me about Idiocracy and all the takes about it is that not only is it not great from a commentary perspective, it's also just not really a very good movie in its own right. Like, at my most charitable, it's fine enough so long as you ignore some of the bad politics in it, but even then, this isn't a comedic masterpiece or anything. The characters are pretty flat and one-dimensional, the jokes are often the most cheap and obvious ones you could go for in any given situation. There's no real sense of plot escalation, none of the characters get any real development until the very end, where we're simply told that Joe learns to love it here and he and Rita get together. The only joke with any real staying power that people quote from this movie is the Brando line, because it's meant to be a mimetic slogan, but otherwise there's not really many jokes that hit particularly hard or anything.
Brando's got what plants crave. It's got electrolytes. But Brando's got what plants crave.
It's got electrolytes.
It's very telling that the only thing people regularly reference about Idiocracy is the premise, because the meat of the film itself doesn't offer much besides that. I think what we can take from Idiocracy, though, is that this way of referring to our political opponents is a long-standing and very popular one, and I think Idiocracy is unintentionally a perfect case study into why this way of thinking is incredibly dangerous. The discourses that Idiocracy utilizes are discourses that are still popping up in our current day, and with the advent of things like, say, trans bathroom bans currently sweeping the United States, we're seeing a lot more generalization of people who live in those regions and the people who are enacting those laws as dangerous because they are stupid, and I think that's something worth pushing back on. Idiocracy very strongly encapsulates a lot of very dangerous ways of viewing the people who enact harmful policies and the people upon whom those harmful policies are enacted, and I think what we can take from Idiocracy is by viewing it as essentially a concentrated representation of things we need to avoid in our own political discourse. Beyond that, if you want a film like Idiocracy, watch Sorry to Bother You. If you want a work by Mike Judge exploring the absurdities of modern culture, watch King of the Hill or Office Space. If you want a piece of comedic media that explores the absurdities of 2000s political and popular culture, watch the first 3 seasons of Arrested Development. There are better options out there than Idiocracy, ones more relevant, with more to say, and overall just better. Because the film itself is flawed, full of bad, tasteless politics, and not even completely relevant when it comes to examining the current climate we find ourselves in. It uses flawed, extremely problematic science to justify presenting a world in which those who are poor and have an arbitrarily low IQ number are not just dumb, but dumb to the point of ruining society and incapable of basic empathy. It's an ultimately mean-spirited, poorly aged relic of its era, rather than some prophetic statement about the future. I think my feelings on this film, especially on a rewatch, were really crystallized by experiencing better media like Sorry to Bother You. And one of the things that really sealed it for me is that, and if you follow me on Twitter you'll know this, but I've been deep diving into the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett as of late. A series that, on top of being empathetic, humorous, exciting, and just genuinely really fun to read, deals with class in a really thoughtful and great way. If you've ever seen this quote circulate around social media, essentially explaining why it is quite literally more expensive to be poor, that's actually by Terry Pratchett, and it's from his Discworld novel Men-at-Arms. So basically, Discworld is this series of interconnected stories taking place in this really creative and inventive fantasy realm. I had honestly been a bit intimidated to get into them because the series seemed really huge and daunting, but I started with the audiobook of Mort, a story of a young boy who becomes Death's apprentice, and absolutely loved it, and I've just been devouring them ever since. If you want a Discworld book that really